whether they're stolen, whether they're given to them, like the accessibility of these weapons, would you deem as turning point or like have a solution of saying, maybe parents, hey, if you're a responsible gun owner, parents, this is what we're teaching you to do?
I'll tell you my position. I think the parent in the Santa Fe shooting should go to prison.
I agree.
Once it's your weapon that's registered in your name, it's your responsibility. 100%. That's your weapon and you take responsibility.
Yeah, that's a major problem. They always have their kids, their parents here.
Well, and as far as the 18-year-old argument, the Virginia Tech shooting would not have been thwarted through an assault rifle ban over 18 years old, this last shooting in Santa Fe. And so I'm hesitant to strip away constitutional rights for people that can also serve in the U.S. military, just because it's a nice sounding sound. Just being like, oh, somehow the evil's going to go away from someone from the age 18 to 21 or 25.
What about the federal assault weapons ban, where mass shootings were cut in half and then tripled?
The federal automatic assault weapons ban?
Or the federal assault weapons ban bill cut back to
what about it? Where gun crime went up?
No, mass shootings were cut in half and then tripled.
Right, but gun crime did go up dramatically. Urban crime increased.
Gun crime
the murder
went up,
rate.
but it was consistent. It was not because of the federal assault.
No, I would make an argument. It was because of the assault weapons.
Look, the graph goes like this.
I'm very familiar with it.
So that's, it's not solving all gun violence, it's solving the mass shootings, which is a good step. And we shouldn't say just because we can't solve this, we shouldn't try to solve it. I think it's a good step for the assault weapons, and we can come back and we can work on other
So explain to me, what is an assault weapon?
An assault weapon is a weapon as defined by the federal assault weapons ban that it's a gun that has a lot of ammo, like ammunition.
What do you mean a lot of?
Like you can
give me a
add
number.
clips onto. I don't know the number. You can add clips onto.
You do know an assault weapon's a made-up term. It doesn't exist.
Right. We are making up the term. That is the way we're making the term.
Right. So gun manufacturers, members of the military would never use an assault
No, they would
weapon.
not. You were making an assault weapon term.
No, but I know. So
attached ammo clips and rapid fire rate.
So would you ban AR-15s?
AR-15 because it
You
can
would?
fire very rapidly. Yes.
You would ban it.
It would fire very rapidly.
But you understand there's no mechanical difference between an AR-15 and an M9
Sure,
or a
but
9mm
you
pistol.
can add a lot of ammo onto that. The same way you can add
What do you mean
a lot
a
of
lot?
ammo
What do you mean a
onto
lot of? Like that's a very arbitrary term.
term.
Right. I mean, you can add supplemental magazine charges to pistols,
Right, exactly.
to long range rifles. So pistols should be banned.
The clips, true pistols.
So an assault weapon again is a made-up term. An AR-15 is no. Yeah, it is. An assault weapon, an assault rifle is not. And, it's precisely. But a gun manufacturer, a member of the military, would never ever use the term assault weapon. It's made up by gun grabbers to try to take guns away.
It was made up by us.
But us meaning members of Congress that have never owned weapons themselves. An assault weapon could be a bat, it could be a hammer, it could be a knife, it could be a pistol, or it could be a car. An assault rifle mechanically is a correct, precise term. And here's the reason why it matters. I'm being very linguistically particular because when you talk about banning pieces of weaponry, it really matters, right? So less than 3% of all gun crime every single year is done with AR-15s, yet it gets 99% of the national conversation. So if you take the national gun statistics, they say 33,000 murders every single year are done with gun crimes. That's unbelievably misleading. 66% of them are done by death by suicide, right? So that number goes down to 11,000. And then 80% of that 11,000 figure is done by African American males in urban areas with pistols. That's a handgun problem, right? So why would you focus your attention based on something where there's murky statistical evidence around of trying to ban assault weapons, as you put it, assault rifles, when they're a statistical outlier of all the national gun violence?
Well, sure, because we're trying to solve what we can for now. Just because we can't solve all gun violence doesn't mean we should not try.
So you would take all the guns away?
Actual issues. I mean, you don't actually believe when a school shooting happens that the NRA is, there's no way that I believe, you look like a smart kid, there's no way that I believe that you think that because people are members of the NRA, right, that is what is causing mass shootings.
What is your opinion?
That's all it decides.
I
Yeah,
don't believe
right.
that the
So
members...
why do you think that we're having all these mass shootings? Can we just get down to actually what you believe? So chip away Democrat, Republican, politics. Why do you think kids are looking at this as an option?
Don't say his name.
Sure, we won't say his name. But let's look at the Parkland shooter. And he was like a psychopath. He had mental health issues. He didn't have true emotion. He did this stuff all the time. He has a long history. The FBI failed to act on this. that his act, being able to access guns, like it's just him being
So
sick
what
and then
your friend just said, which we actually disagree with, you just brought the FBI, you brought about the blessing.
Yeah,
all the
why is
signs.
no one protesting
Why is
the FBI? There was ample.
Why is nobody protesting all the signs that were there? Why aren't we talking about, kids that are medicated at a really young age?
As soon as shots were fired, people knew it was him because everyone knew he was nuts.
No, I have
My
not
parents
taken
are
a
both
class.
doctors,
Right.
and so I know a lot about this.
You're making an argument from authority, so make an argument that we can understand. So don't do that.
Your parents being doctors isn't
Yes,
really
it doesn't make your argument more or less
I
correct.
work
That
with
makes
my
your
PhD
parents
in
doctors,
studied
not you
medicine
with them.
with him.
Yeah, but you don't have. You're not.
I'm a
doctor.
medicine man.
But make the argument, nevertheless, that's correct. Just make the
Right.
argument.
So the medicine that is dispersed, like I just talked to somebody that said that Adderall is causing mass shootings.
Adderall makes I am really opposed to giving Adderall to kids that are 6 years old because I literally grew up with someone who was on Adderall and they literally were trying to wean off of it in high school. They eventually did, and he said it was the worst thing he ever did because he keep needing more and more and more. Eventually needed the patch, and it made him a crazy person. According to him, right? He said it made him a crazy person. It's like
So
when your
above
6 year
6 years
old,
old.
when your 6-year-old is running around, they might not have a problem. They might just be hyper because they're 6, right? Your children that are not paying attention in school, they might not have an attention deficit disorder. They might just not be interested in some of the subjects. They're kids of energy. They want to run around. They want to do
what about
things.
above 6
So,
because of that?
look, I can get into this all day. These are my personal beliefs, and no way to reflect
But
on what USA.
it's an arguable
medication of society.
the
the
overindulgence in pharmaceuticals in our society has contributed.
Attention deficit. Listen, I don't pay attention in classes. I don't want to listen to any either. It doesn't mean I have ADD.
But going back
don't
to
like math.
like what would you if you had your druthers, what would be your ideal piece of gun legislation if you had the votes? What would you pass?
I would really just like to start basic, to be really honest. And here in Colorado, we have universal background checks. I think that's a good thing. I think they should be a little more extensive.
But what background check would be a flag that you wouldn't be allowed to have a gun? That's what I always ask.
What would be a flag?
What would be a flag of a background check that you would say this person shouldn't have a gun?
So there's quite a bit of things. I could just go into specific order, but like for example, I have a friend that has tried to kill herself a few times, and she passed a universal background check in Colorado. That is just a concern for me. 2 days after she tried to kill herself, she went out and got a gun and was able to just buy the gun right off the bat. That's a red flag.
So you think people that have committed suicide should never be able to protect themselves if they straighten out their issues?
No. It's just like red flag laws, which came up and were shot down in the Colorado State Legislature. It would take away your gun for about a year and then give it back to you once you've been proved stable, which is a very easy process to do.
You gotta be careful with due process. You gotta be careful with constitutional
No,
rights.
it's written in with due process with the help of the NRA lobbyists and Republican lawmakers in
Right.
Colorado.
So Candace and I, in principle, don't disagree with red flag laws, but there's already a lot of them on the books that are not being properly enforced. So Florida has a version of a red flag law that says if there is a flag by the FBI, you go and visit that person. Guess what? There were 2 flags by the FBI with that animal in Parkland, and no one visited him. Not to mention the local police had 58 documented warnings about this animal, and they didn't visit him once, and they did not confiscate his weaponry. So the question is the failure of our government institutions. How is more laws, more red flags?
I think the solution for us, if we want to take this debate seriously, or what you're proposing seriously, would be A, enforce laws that are already currently in existence before you start introducing new ones. And that's
So just
the problem.
focusing in Colorado, we would love to do that, and we don't have a lot of the same issues.
Right.
We report to the FBI, so I'm just wondering why the background, or why the red flag laws go here, why it would get opposed to them here, since we are compliant with that stuff like some of the other states.
We're going to have to plead a little ignorance not being from Colorado, but in principle, I think the red flag laws are slippery slope. I think they come from a good place, but they could be abused by miscategorizations by counselors and psychologists, so on and so forth. And I don't think your constitutional rights should disappear just because a psychiatrist might submit something
rights,
to you.
so Justice Scalia ruled in 2008 that the Second Amendment should be protected, but it's not unlimited.
We're not arguing for that. We don't believe that you should have a rocket-propelled grenade.
Exactly.
We already
And
have
there
limitations
are-
on the Second Amendment.
Yeah, there's more to be done. With a well-regulated militia, Justice Scalia ruling very recently that it's unlimited, that it's not unlimited.
Be careful with that militia argument. You don't want to go.
No. The militia, I totally agree. That's the whole of the people. The part is
Right, okay, good. You agree with that?
So a
You got a leftist
well-regulated
agree with that.
whole of the people. That's
Okay,
still
that's
such
good, because
well-regulated.
people misunderstand what militia meant
No,
back then.
definitely. That was also ruled in 2008, Justice Scalia ruled.
Right, the Heller decision defined it as a constitutional right.
Exactly, but not an unlimited constitution.
No, we're not arguing for unlimited.
Right,
We're arguing
so
that we've
therefore-
already pushed the boundary really far. So until we continue to go into the continued endless direction of gun control, which could lead us to London, why don't we recalibrate our systems in general, the FBI, the broken FBI, the broken Broward system, the broken mental health, the broken schools? Because in our opinion, why should I have to give away my AR-15 because the FBI doesn't do their job?
We just don't think the solution to laws being broken are more laws.
Well, yeah, we can definitely fix the NRA, but it's just not true in every single state. We still had mass shootings here, and we still had gun legislation here that wasn't the that was being enforced by the government and was effective, and we've still had Columbine, Aurora, we had Arapahoe, we had Deer Creek, which I went to 2 school shootings there. So it's just like that argument applies in many places. I can't speak to those places, but here, where the federal government and the state government has done a lot of their job and done all of their job, the gun laws still haven't worked, and that's because they haven't been extensive.
Well, that's because of the issues, as I said before, it's not about government and laws, it's about culture, American culture, and what's shifted and what has changed in people's minds. And nobody's having that discussion.
Yeah, and so Candace talks about a lot. Mass shootings were not a thing until Columbine. It popularized it. It almost tempted young men to go out and do it. Trench coats were not something that were worn in schools until Dylan and that other nut job did that. And so what happened is that AR-15s were around long before the 1999 Columbine shooting. And so, unfortunately, I think the media's played a big role in this by glamorizing these animals and putting their faces on TV. I think the overindulgence in that popularity and that attention, social media and the isolation index. So
it's hard to be a kid today. Nobody wants to talk about that. They want to keep blaming the NRA. They want to keep politicizing. They want to talk about Congress. They want to talk about laws. No one's talking about how difficult it is for a child to come up in school. It's hard to be a teenager, but no one talks about that.
Totally, yeah.
We can't regulate social media. We can't take it all down.
Okay,
we're not saying
but
that,
you think you
but
can
it has been
regulate people and take down?
There is anti-bullying
First off,
legislation. Anti-bullying legislation.
Yeah, sure. Well, we can't.
But you're not even talking about it. You're talking about the NRA. You're not addressing the children that are being bullied that way.
I would disagree with that.
I'm going to say
I
something to you. The kids. Okay, I'm not saying you personally. When I say it to you, I'm talking about as a whole. Today we have people that are marching around screaming "F the NRA." Right? That's a problem. Okay. When a kid goes into high school and shoots them, the last thing that's on their mind is I'm doing this for the NRA. Right? They're doing it because they're going through something that no one ever talks about after.
We're arguing with you because we disagree with the NRA's protection of the Second Amendment so vehemently that violates the unlimited.
And we're arguing with you because we disagree with your focus on the NRA.
Believe it or not, this might surprise you. The NRA is on the moderate position of some gun rights groups in America. That might stun you to hear that.
It doesn't. I'm aware of
No, but there's Gun Owners of America that want to repeal the 1937 automatic federal weapons ban.
Rocky Mountain Gun Owners here in
Right.
Colorado.
So we are NRA members, which on the spectrum of gun rights organizations is in the middle.
Moderate, yeah.
And so we actually, that might be a stunning assumption. You know the reason why people hate the NRA? It's because we're effective and we have lots of members. Not that we uncompromise. The NRA came out and supported the bump stock ban. Right? And got no credit. The NRA came out.
Somebody to hate. It's like the boogeyman.
Yeah, and the NRA came out and supported universal background checks with the Bill Brady bill in 1987. They championed it through Congress. So the NRA could be a useful ally for those of you that are concerned with this whole thing. It's that I see, not from you, but your organization, the Students Demand Action, has said some horrible things about NRA. And where I say, well, let's be allies, but I see horrible things being said about us, right? And so I don't quite understand why a grassroots organization with 6 million law-abiding Americans is somehow the enemy of sensible reform for people's safety.
Well, because what we see is that a lot of NRA members are actually agreeing with things like universal background checks and with flag laws and stuff like that, but a lot of NRA leadership seems to convey a different message, and so what we feel, and this is not right necessarily, but this is just my best explanation, is that some of your spokespeople and your leaders and people that call Parkland survivors whatever, like horrible little rats or whatever, that was a horrible thing to do, and that's what represents your organization. Is that NRA board member?
What NRA calls member calls it a horrible a rat?
I mean, I will say this. I'll say this. I mean, Wayne LaPierre and Chris Cox and Dana Lash have been very precise in their language to first extend their sympathy after shootings, and secondly, if there's a competition of like who cares more, I'll tell you this: NRA members cry too when kids die.
And it's ridiculous that
right? And I think that there's
you're
this.
going to expect them to have some sort of reaction when you keep referring to them as
Parkland survivors, liars, and soulless.
Right. So Ted Nugent has been a little bit of a crazy individual for a very, very long time. Nor do I. Well, he doesn't represent it. He is a fringe board member. If you're asking me, I denounce. How about that?
Okay.
Okay.
So that's why the NRA.
So will you denounce?
Again,
How will you denounce
again.
David Hogg for calling me a terrorist?
But yeah, what David Hogg has said.
Okay, good. So now we agree.
It's a mudslinging event, but at the end of the day, does David Hogg represent every high school student?
No, of course not.
Does Ted Nugent represent
portray a
every?
negative image of us the same way that Ted Nugent can portray.
Right.
And that needs to stop. So we need to stop talking about that and actually start talking about the solution. That's what we're saying. I mean, that's our entire mission. The focus in the NRA has been insane. It's ridiculous. There's nothing that we're doing that you guys should be against. If anything, you should be trying to make them allies, talk about some legislation that would make sense to get leverage too. They can help you with that. But instead, they've been demonized. You talk about us like we're Satan's children.
So the NRA
right?
just
Because
passed
we
the School
believe
Safe
in our
Act.
Second Amendment, right?
No one talks about that.
No one talks about it.
The School Safe Act was a big deal that passed in the last 60
and
days.
again, we're overlooking the children, and that's what I hate the most in it, is that you're pretending like these kids got up and shut up at school because they wanted to represent the NRA. They haven't. So at the end of the day, we're not having. But why are the signs
It is
always
the
say
subtext, though. You got to admit.
It is the
subtext. We believe that the NRA allows this to happen.
Elaborate on that.
We believe that you guys you block the regulations. You increase your budget after Sandy Hook by millions of dollars.
Well, yeah, because there was a national gun confiscation movement on.
Right. We just increased after David
Yeah,
Hogg.
there
David
was.
Hogg is actually pro-NRA, but
After Sandy Hook, Pierce Morgan
had after David Hogg. People that are realizing that, wow, we have these children that are going around trying to call everybody who believes in the Second Amendment, a murderer, and that's actually helping the NRA. So if you're serious and you're upset with the NRA over what? Being successful, having members?
Yeah, I think it's more like you're threatened by the power that the NRA possesses.
If
it was about guns, you would go after the National Gun Manufacturers Association, which is the true trade association of gun manufacturers. The NRA does not represent gun manufacturers. They don't. Less than 2% of their budget are actually contributions from gun manufacturers. There is a trade association that represents like Ruger and Smith and Wesson.
They get away with it.
Yeah, but no one talks about them because they don't have no members. They're represented by gun manufacturers. Does that make sense?
That's a fair point. And I know a lot of this. I know that the trade organization. I know.
And it looks like you actually are reading and you know a lot of this stuff.
I'm educated, but I think the issue is when you say we want to work together as allies, it's just that we have some fundamental differences that are really hard to get over. Like when I start talking about wanting to red flag laws, you go background.
We just agreed.
Well, you agree, but you bring up the point of like, well, it's a slippery slope, and there's this and this and
It is, but that's a conversation we can keep having.
Yeah, it's a mutual conversation.
That's why I always say, tell me what you would put in front of me.
I'm ready to sign. We're senators. Like, what do you put in front of us? So I can tell you what I'd put in front of you.
What specifically would you put in front? And I say, when you start talking about background checks, something gets slippery. Is a girl that has a breakup and tries to commit suicide, in a heat of a moment, emotional reaction, is she not able to buy a gun? That doesn't seem really fair to me. And that's what I'm talking about. I say the slope gets slippery. We have to, if it was something really defined, that to me seems a little like, people can have an emotional reaction.
She shouldn't lose her constitutional rights because she wanted to have self-inflicted harm.
I disagree with that.
I think it's like my
I'm not saying it is, but that's when I say the slope is slippery. That's what I'm saying. That our sentiment.
You really think your friend should lose their constitutional right because they?
She was emotional about a boyfriend.
That's
365 days. If you,
I think that I fundamentally disagree.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Well, but it's just
girls are over emotional when they're in high school. I mean, you have a breakup, it feels like the end of the freaking
She's
world.
saying it. I'm not saying
telling
it.
you, they're like, oh my god, I'm never gonna live again. I'm not gonna get up. I'm not gonna eat. And it's like, oh, now you suffered from anorexia. You're gone. You don't get a gun.
Misrepresenting mental illness.
I'm not. How is that misrepresenting mental illness?
We're talking about depression, like serious depression.
No, but I said to you, if a girl had an emotional reaction, said she wanted to kill herself after a bad breakup, situation that I have lived with my girlfriends, right? A girl like me, I had anorexia. You could argue that that's something that that somebody goes through. Do I then now? Does that mean that for 365 days I can't have a gun to defend myself?
If you're checked into a mental facility,
okay, you didn't say that earlier. Here's what I'm saying to you: the slope is very slippery. It's extremely slippery, and I don't like it. What are the reasons that this person is checked into? Their parents go and
the
call
effective
and
red flag laws that work are when psychiatrists file what's called a notice of complaint with the federal authorities when they say my patient is going to inflict harm on someone else because of what he told me under confidential privilege, right? So those are things we agree with. When a trained professional sees that someone is like saying, I'm going to go shoot up a school, they submit what's called a notice of complaint. Now, the FBI got 2 of those with that maniac in Parkland. One public, one private. And they did nothing.
None of these signs say FBI.
Not one says the FBI. Not one. You know how many people have lost their jobs at the FBI? None. They could have prevented Parkland. You know how many people lost their jobs in Santa Fe? The FBI did nothing? None. The problem is there's no accountability for the institutions that are actually supposed to do their jobs.
There's a situation where NRA lobbyists helped draft the red flag laws in Colorado along with Republican lawmakers, and the Republican lawmakers nixed the bill because they were afraid that the NRA would get them recalled like they did in 2013.
How many of you guys agree on certain items?
I just don't
How many of
understand
you all feel like we have to work together as Americans?
I love this guy.
So if you believe that we need to work together as
NRA lobbyists work on it, and
be able to do that by having a peaceful conversation.
Sorry, I missed part of that.
It's not going to be a liberal agenda or a conservative agenda that's going to make change. It's going to be the American agenda. So if you're willing to make that change as young people, because I think most of you all are in college, then let's do that. We all have
Pleasure
different
talking to you,
opinions
man.
on it, but let's work together so that we can be
Charlie, give us
Yeah, of course.
Good job. Good
We
job.
don't want
Just,
anyone to die, right?
Don't throw us all under the same
So
bus.
nobody
Yeah.
wants kids to die.
Have a good
Nobody
one.
should be saying that one
Are you speaking tonight?
wants
Yeah.
kids to
Hey,
die
good
because
job.
they don't. We need to work together. It's time we put America first. It's time we put our children first and our students first. Thank you guys for having a dialogue with us.